Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we are tackling a topic that is absolutely crucial for your financial health in retirement. We're talking about navigating the very complex transition into Medicare. Now, you might be thinking that turning 65 is just this standard birthday milestone, right? Like, you blow out the candles, you fill out a simple form or two, and you're all set. But the reality is actually far more complex than that. Transitioning to Medicare is quite literally a financial minefield. And here's the scary part. One wrong step, one missed deadline, or even just one simple misunderstanding about how your current health insurance works can trigger massive, lifetime financial penalties. And I really want to emphasize that word, lifetime. We aren't just talking about a one-time late fee that you pay and forget about. We are talking about permanent increases to your monthly healthcare premiums. These are penalties that will drain your retirement savings month after month, year after year, for the absolute rest of your life. So my main goal for this explainer today is to empower you. I want to give you the exact knowledge you need to navigate this minefield completely safely, protecting your wallet and ensuring you have the coverage you actually need right when you need it most.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. We're going to navigate 5 specific danger zones. First, the penalty trap. Second, the 20-employee rule. Third, the HSA exception. Fourth, the COBRA trap. And finally, proving credible coverage.
All right, danger zone number 1, the lifetime penalty trap, and what exactly happens when you miss your window.
Okay, so the absolute most important thing you need to understand right out of the gate about Medicare is that the rules are incredibly unforgiving. The government essentially expects you to enroll in Medicare when you are first eligible. And if you don't do that, and you don't have a legally valid excuse, which we'll cover later, missing your specific enrollment window has permanent consequences. Now, you might be wondering, why do they do this? Why so strict? Well, it's basically to prevent people from waiting until they get sick to finally go buy health insurance. The entire Medicare system requires healthy people to be paying into it for it to actually function properly. So to strongly encourage everyone to sign up right away, they enforce these very strict deadlines backed up by severe financial punishments. Your baseline for avoiding these penalties revolves completely around understanding your initial enrollment period, or your IEP. For the vast majority of people who qualify for Medicare based on age, this is a very specific, rigid 7-month window. It begins exactly 3 months before the month you turn 65, it includes your birthday month, and it ends exactly 3 months after the month you turn 65. If you sign up before your birthday month, your coverage typically starts on the first day of your birthday month. Now, I do want to note a quick exception. If you are already receiving Social Security retirement or disability benefits, you're actually typically enrolled in Medicare Parts A and B automatically. You'll just get a nice little packet in the mail a few months before you turn 65. But, and this is a massive but, if you are not taking Social Security yet, which is incredibly common these days since so many of us delay benefits to increase our future payouts, you are not automatically enrolled. You have to proactively raise your hand and apply during this 7-month window. If you just sit back and let this window pass by, you are stepping right onto a financial landmine.
So let's look at the actual damage here. It is absolutely crucial to understand exactly how brutal the math of these penalties can be. Let's break down this table side by side. As you probably know, Medicare is divided into different parts. Part A covers your hospital stays. Now, most people actually get Part A premium-free because they've worked and paid Medicare taxes for at least 10 years. But if you don't happen to qualify for premium-free Part A and you have to actually buy it, missing your window results in a 10% premium increase. And you have to pay this penalty for twice the number of years you delayed signing up. So a 2-year delay equals 4 years of paying penalties. That's rough, but it does eventually end. But my friends, it's Part B and Part D where the trap truly snaps shut on you. Part B covers your medical insurance, so that's your doctors, your outpatient care, the everyday stuff. If you delay Part B without a valid excuse, you are hit with a 10% penalty for every full 12-month period you delayed. And notice the duration for Part B. It says lifetime. That penalty stays with you forever, every single month. Finally, we have Part D, which covers your prescription drugs. The penalty here is calculated a bit differently. It's 1% for every single month you are delayed, and that's based on the national base beneficiary premium. Again, look at the duration. This is a lifetime penalty. If you miss your window by 2 years, that is a 24% penalty added to your drug premium for the rest of your life.
Let's actually put some real dollars and cents to this, just to put that into perspective, using some projected numbers from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services for 2026. Let's say you were eligible for Part B, but you just didn't know the rules. You decided to wait 2 full years, so 24 months, to sign up, and you didn't have qualifying other coverage to excuse the delay. Because of that, you would face a 20% late enrollment penalty. Why? Because it's 10% for each of those 2 full 12-month periods. Now, in 2026, the standard Part B premium is projected to be around $202.90. 20% of that is $40.58. So your new monthly premium isn't that standard rate, it's bumped up to $243.50 every single month. That works out to almost an extra $500 a year coming straight out of your pocket forever, quite literally simply because you missed a deadline. And here's the real kicker you need to keep in mind. As the base premium naturally rises over the years due to inflation, that 20% penalty percentage stays the same, which means the actual dollar amount you are penalized grows year after year too. It is a compounding mistake.
Okay, moving on to Danger Zone 2, the 20-employee rule. This creates a massive fork in the road for a lot of people.
Now you might be sitting there asking, well, what if I plan to keep working past age 65? Do I still have to scramble and enroll in Medicare during that 7-month window just to avoid these penalties? This is where it gets really interesting. If you plan to keep working past 65, the absolute size of your company, literally the headcount, dictates the rules of coordination of benefits. In plain English, coordination of benefits just means who pays your medical bills first. If you actively work for a large employer, and the government rigidly defines this as a company with 20 or more employees, and you get your health insurance through them, your employer's group plan is considered the primary payer. Medicare is considered secondary. Because your large employer pays first, the government essentially says, hey, you've got good coverage, we'll let you slide for now. They allow you to safely delay enrolling in Medicare Part B without racking up any of those penalties we just talked about. Your active large group coverage acts as a protective shield. Lots of people in this exact situation will go ahead and enroll in premium-free Part A just to help with any potential hospital deductibles, but they purposely delay Part B to save on paying those monthly premiums. However, if you actively work for a small employer, meaning they have fewer than 20 employees, the entire dynamic completely flips on its head. By law, Medicare instantly becomes the primary payer the moment you turn 65, and your small employer's insurance gets bumped down to secondary status.
If you happen to be at one of these smaller companies, you must pay very close attention to these hazards. It is absolutely crucial. Because Medicare is considered the primary payer in this scenario, you must enroll in Medicare Parts A and B during your initial enrollment period at age 65. If you just assume everything is fine and you decide to skip Part B thinking, oh, my employer plan has always covered me, it'll keep covering me, you are taking a massive, massive risk. Remember, since your employer plan is now legally secondary, it's only designed to pay claims after Medicare has paid its primary share. But think about it. If you didn't enroll in Medicare, there was no primary payer. So what happens? You go to the doctor, you have a procedure done, and the bill goes to your employer's insurance. They look at it and say, wait a minute, Medicare was supposed to pay 80% of this. We are only responsible for the remaining 20%. And they can legally refuse to pay the portion that Medicare would have covered if you had signed up. So in this scenario, you aren't just risking a government penalty down the road, you're risking catastrophic, devastatingly large unpaid medical bills right now, because you essentially have a massive gap in your insurance coverage without even realizing it. Bottom line, if your company has fewer than 20 employees, enrolling in Medicare at 65 is practically mandatory if you want to protect yourself.
Let's transition to Danger Zone number 3, the HSA exception. This is a really sneaky, hidden snag.
We're going to shift our focus slightly now to a very specific, incredibly common financial tool that creates a totally unique and hidden trap for older workers. I'm talking about the Health Savings Account, or HSA. Now, don't get me wrong, HSAs are absolutely fantastic tools. They offer those rare triple tax advantages, and they're paired with high-deductible health plans. A lot of actively working adults rely heavily on them to stash away tax-free money for future medical expenses in retirement. It's a great strategy. But when you start approaching the Medicare transition, your beloved HSA suddenly becomes highly problematic. Here is the absolute ironclad rule you need to memorize. You cannot contribute to a health savings account if you have any active part of Medicare, period. The IRS expressly forbids it. Even if you only enroll in that premium-free Part A we talked about because you work for a large employer and you delayed Part B, the very moment Part A becomes active, your ability to put any money into an HSA or even receive employer matching contributions to it is instantly disqualified. But of course, it gets trickier than that. When you eventually apply for Medicare Part A, say you decide to retire at 67, the government actually activates your coverage retroactively. They look backward up to 6 months in the past, though no earlier than your very first month of eligibility at 65. So, let's play this out. Imagine you work until you're 67. You decide to finally retire and apply for Medicare. The system will automatically backdate your Part A coverage by 6 months. Now, if you had been dutifully contributing to your HSA out of your paycheck during those specific 6 months like you always do, congratulations, you have now made illegal contributions according to the IRS, and they will hit you with tax penalties for doing so. Therefore, to fully protect yourself from this look-back trap, you must proactively completely stop all HSA contributions exactly 6 months before you officially apply for Medicare. You really have to time your exit carefully here.
All right, Danger Zone number 4, the COBRA trap. I call this an incredibly expensive illusion.
So when people leave a job, maybe they decide to retire a bit early or sadly get laid off, they are very often offered COBRA. COBRA is a law that basically allows you to keep your exact same employer health insurance for a set period of time, usually about 18 months, by taking on the burden of paying the full premium yourself. Because the insurance card in your wallet literally doesn't change and you go to the same doctors, it creates a very dangerous, very expensive illusion of safety. It feels like you still have employer coverage. So I really want you to think about this question. Does COBRA actually count as current employer coverage in the eyes of the complex Medicare system? If you leave your job at, say, 66, you take COBRA, and you plan to just use it until you are 67.5 before finally signing up for Medicare, are you safe from those lifetime penalties?
The stark, harsh reality is this. No, you are absolutely not safe. The government does not in any way consider COBRA to be active, current employment. The absolutely critical keyword here is current. Remember earlier when we talked about how a large employer plan acts as a shield? Well, to legally delay Medicare without a penalty, you must have insurance that is based on current active employment. By definition, if you are on a COBRA plan, your employment has actually ended, or your hours were significantly reduced. Therefore, having COBRA offers you absolutely zero legal protection against Medicare late enrollment penalties.
Let's detail the harsh facts of this COBRA reality so you can see exactly why this is such a dangerous trap to fall into. First off, just like with those smaller employers we discussed, if you are 65 or older and you are on COBRA, Medicare pays first and COBRA pays second. If you don't actually have Medicare active, your COBRA plan might pay absolutely nothing, leaving you holding the bag for massive medical bills. Second, and honestly, this is where people really get hurt financially, you do not get a special enrollment period when your COBRA coverage finally runs out. If you recall, earlier we talked about how actively working for a large employer shields you. Well, when you eventually leave that active large employer, the government gives you an 8-month special enrollment period, or SEP, to sign up for Medicare without any penalties. But listen closely, that 8-month clock starts ticking the very minute you stop actively working. It does not wait around for your COBRA to run out. So you have 2 clocks running at the same time. You have your 8-month Medicare window and your 18-month COBRA window. You must enroll in Part B by your 8th month on COBRA. If you make the mistake of just riding your COBRA out for the full 18 months, you will have completely, hopelessly missed your 8-month Medicare window. At that point, you will have to wait for the general enrollment period that only happens between January and March. Your coverage won't even start right away. You'll have a terrifying gap in insurance, and you will be slapped with that lifetime late enrollment penalty for Part B. It's a disaster. Now, I should note one very rare exception here. If you happen to have end-stage renal disease, there is a special 30-month coordination period where COBRA actually does pay primary. But for literally everyone else, relying on COBRA instead of enrolling in Medicare is a fast track to permanent late fees and coverage gaps.
Finally, Danger Zone 5, proving credible coverage and securing your safety once and for all.
Okay, so let's say you did everything right. You kept working past 65 at a large employer, and you properly and legally delayed Medicare. How do you actually bypass that initial enrollment period and avoid the penalty trap when you finally truly decide to retire? Well, you have to secure your safety by officially proving to the government that you had what they call creditable coverage. Creditable coverage is just the legal, fancy term for having a valid excuse to delay Medicare. It basically means you had prescription drug or health coverage, typically from that large active employer that is actuarially expected to pay out on average at least as much as standard Medicare coverage would pay. If you have this level of coverage, you are totally shielded. Now, for prescription drugs specifically, the actuarial value of your plan must equal or exceed standard Part D. I know actuarial value sounds complicated, but don't worry, you absolutely do not have to sit there and do the complex math yourself to figure this out. By law, your employer or your union must send you a formal disclosure notice every single year. They usually mail this out in September, explicitly stating whether your plan's drug coverage is considered creditable or non-creditable. Please do not throw these letters in the recycling bin. You must save them. They are your literal proof of coverage. Also, keep in mind, if you ever lose your creditable drug coverage, you generally only have a strict 63-day window to join a Medicare Part D plan without getting hit with a penalty.
Now, to legally prove your medical coverage was creditable to the government, you are going to need this highly specific document right here, the official CMS Request for Employment Information Form, also known as Form L-564. This piece of paper is incredibly powerful. Think of it as your golden ticket, your get-out-of-penalty-free card. You cannot just call up Medicare on the phone, chat with a representative, and promise them that you were working. They won't take your word for it. You absolutely must submit this paper proof. It's pretty straightforward. You fill out Section A with all your basic personal details. But the absolutely critical part is Section B. This section must be filled out and formally signed by your employer's Human Resources Department or an official company representative. They have to legally certify in writing that you were in fact covered under their employer group health plan, and they have to list the exact specific dates of your employment and your coverage. Without this signed form safely in your hands and submitted, Medicare is just going to blindly assume you had no coverage at all during those years, and they will automatically apply those devastating lifetime penalties.
So, to bring it all together, here is your safe enrollment sequence. Think of this as your pre-flight checklist to transition from employer insurance to Medicare flawlessly. Step 1. Throughout your late career, starting at 65, meticulously save your annual creditable coverage letters regarding your prescription drug plan. Just keep a dedicated file folder in your desk. Step 2. About a month or two before you actually plan to retire and leave your group coverage, print out that CMS Request for Employment Information form. Hand it over to your HR department and have them fill out Section B. Get it done before you walk out the door for the last time so you aren't chasing people down later. Step 3. Once you officially stop working, you trigger what's called a Special Enrollment Period, or SEP. You have exactly 8 months from the month after your active employment ends, or the month after your group health plan ends, whichever of those happens first, to submit your Medicare application along with that signed HR form. And a pro tip here, do not wait until the 8th month to do this. Enroll as immediately as possible to ensure a seamless transition of coverage, so you aren't left uninsured for even a single day.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to end by asking you a very serious, direct question. Are you absolutely certain your current insurance strategy won't trigger a lifetime Medicare penalty? We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've seen how a simple delay or misunderstanding of the rules can cost you 20% or more on your premiums forever. We've learned that working at a company with 19 employees has vastly different rules than working at a company with 20. We discovered that contributing to an HSA just a little too late can trigger audits and penalties from the IRS, and we totally dismantled the really dangerous illusion that COBRA somehow protects you from Medicare penalties. The Medicare rules are undeniably strict, and they are completely unforgiving, but they are absolutely manageable if you are proactive and informed. I challenge you today, right after this session ends, to go verify your employer's true headcount, review your recent HSA contributions, go dig out and look at those annual creditable coverage letters, and please never ever assume COBRA is a safe harbor. Take control of your transition, protect your hard-earned retirement finances, and navigate this minefield safely. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we will definitely see you next time.